What is the most ridiculous time someone thought I was hitting on them? I had been asking my dental hygienist about her teeth cleaning technique because I had been considering becoming a dental hygienist myself, and the hygienist had thought I had been making elaborate moves on her, and I want to tell you about the 4 months during which the misunderstanding had compounded into something I had not been expecting. The hygienist's name was Octavia. Octavia was 31. Octavia had been my dental hygienist for about 2 years. I am 33. I had been working as a paralegal for the past 9 years. I had been considering a career change. The career change I had been considering was dental hygiene. The thing that had started the misunderstanding was a specific question I had asked Octavia at one of my cleanings. I said, "Octavia, how did you decide to become a dental hygienist?" Octavia said, "It is a long story." I said, "I would love to hear it sometime." Octavia said, "Maybe over coffee." I said, "Sure, that would be great." I had been not realizing in the moment what had just happened. I had been thinking that Octavia had offered to meet for coffee to discuss her career path. Octavia had been thinking that I had asked her out on a date. The coffee had happened the following week. I had shown up with a notebook. I had been ready to take notes about Octavia's career path. Octavia had shown up dressed in a way that I had not at the time recognized as date appropriate. The coffee had been confusing. Octavia had been asking me specific questions. The questions had been about my relationship status, and about what I had been doing on weekends, and about whether I had ever been in a serious relationship. I had been answering the questions because I had thought they were just casual conversation. The coffee had ended with Octavia hugging me longer than I had been expecting. Octavia said, "This was nice. Let us do it again soon." I said, "Yes, I would love to." The 4 months had been a series of coffees. Each coffee had been Octavia escalating in ways I had been not registering. Octavia had been buying me small gifts. The gifts had been a book about the history of dental care. The gifts had been a small succulent for my desk. The gifts had been a dental hygiene textbook. I had been receiving the gifts as gifts of a mentor. The thing that ended the misunderstanding was specific. About 4 months in, Octavia had taken me to dinner. The dinner had been at a nice restaurant. About halfway through dinner, Octavia had reached across the table and had taken my hand. Octavia said, "I have been wanting to ask you something for 4 months." I had been processing. The processing had been the moment I had figured out what had been happening for 4 months. I said, "Octavia, I think there has been a misunderstanding." I had explained. I had told Octavia that I had been straight. I had told Octavia that I had been thinking we were doing career conversations. I had told Octavia that I had been so sorry. Octavia had been embarrassed. Octavia had been laughing eventually. Octavia said, "You have been the densest person I have ever dated." The next day, I texted Octavia. I kept it light. I sent her a message asking about the application deadline for a dental hygiene program. I thought if I just acted like things were fine, then things would be fine. Octavia texted back one word, December. That was it. No follow-up, no emoji. Then 3 days went by and I did not hear from her at all. I called Colt. Colt is my best friend. I told him everything. Colt was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You went to dinner with her 12 times. You let her buy you gifts. And you brought a notebook to the first one. That is honestly impressive." I said it had all been professional. Colt said, "You literally let her hold your hand at dinner before you said anything." I opened my mouth to argue and nothing came out because he was right. Octavia had reached across the table and taken my hand, and I had sat there for a good few seconds before I said anything. From Octavia's side, that must have looked like I was letting it happen. After I got off the phone with Colt, I could not sleep. I lay in bed and I replayed the 4 months in my head. The long hugs at the end of every coffee. The compliments about my smile. The time Octavia tucked a strand of hair behind my ear. We had been at a coffee shop and she had leaned across the table and gently moved my hair, and I had thought it was because the hair was near my mouth. I had actually thanked her for the demonstration. I lay there in bed and I wanted to disappear. The signs had been everywhere. I had been so focused on my career questions that I had not seen Octavia. I had seen a resource. I had seen a mentor. I had not seen the person sitting across from me who was falling for someone who did not exist. By the next afternoon, I had decided I needed to reach out to Octavia properly. I sat on my couch with my phone and I started writing. The text took me 45 minutes. The final version said that I was sorry for not seeing what had been happening. It said that I understood now that those 4 months meant something real to her. It said that I valued her as a person, not just as someone who could help me with my career. I hit send. The read receipt appeared almost right away. I waited 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour. No response came that night. No response came the next day. 2 days, 3 days, 5 days, a full week of silence. Then on day 8, my phone buzzed. It was Octavia. The message said, "I need some space. Please do not contact me for a while." I read it over and over, and the worst part was that I understood. My long, sincere text had probably felt to Octavia like I was trying to manage the situation, like I was trying to fast forward through the hard part. I was trying to fix things on my timeline, not hers. For once in 4 months, I actually paid attention to what the other person was telling me. 3 weeks went by. 3 full weeks of nothing. During those 3 weeks, I had my next regular dental cleaning coming up. The appointment had been booked months ago. I told myself I was a grown woman, and I could sit in a dental chair for 40 minutes without falling apart. I walked in. I gave my name. The receptionist looked at her screen, and then she looked at me, and something in her face changed just a little. She said, "You will be seeing a different hygienist today." I asked why. She paused for a second, and then she said, "Octavia has requested to not be assigned to your appointments going forward." I just nodded. That was not just someone who needed space. That was someone who wanted me erased from her work life. I lay in that chair with my mouth open, and I felt the full weight of what I had lost. Not just a friend. I had lost my only real connection to the dental hygiene world. Octavia had been my mentor even if she had thought she was my girlfriend. And now she would not even clean my teeth. My program applications were due in 6 weeks. Octavia had been going to write me a recommendation letter. Now I had no letter, no mentor. That night I called Colt. I sat on my kitchen floor. I told him about the appointment. I said, "I think this friendship is done, Colt. I think I broke it." Colt was quiet. Then he said, "You cannot force someone to forgive you on your timeline, but you also cannot just disappear on her. She probably thinks you only cared about the career stuff." I opened my mouth to say that was not true, but the words did not come out because I was sitting there thinking about every single text I had sent Octavia after the dinner. The first text had been about an application deadline. Even when I was trying to be sincere, I had been wrapping my career needs into every message. I had never once just texted her to ask how she was doing. The guilt I had been carrying around for 3 weeks turned into something deeper and uglier. Even after I found out about Octavia's feelings, I had treated those feelings like a problem to solve, like an obstacle obstacle between me and my career goals. Part of me, a part I did not want to look at, had been thinking about that letter the whole time. I sat on that kitchen floor for a long time after Colt hung up. I had been selfish, not in a mean way, not on purpose, but in the way where you are so focused on what you want that you stop seeing the people around you as people. I decided two things that night. The first thing was that I needed to figure out the program applications on my own. No more leaning on Octavia. I started researching other ways to get a recommendation letter. I found an information session for one of the programs I was applying to, and I signed up for it. I went alone. I introduced myself to one of the dental hygienists who was presenting. I did the work myself. The second thing was harder. I needed to find a way to show Octavia that I cared about her as a person, but I could not contact her because she had asked me not to, so I sat with that. Then one afternoon, I came back to the dental office to pick up some paperwork for my insurance. I was making small talk with the receptionist. I asked her how things had been at the office. Then she said something that changed everything. She said Octavia had been picking up a lot of extra shifts lately. I asked if everything was okay. The receptionist hesitated. Then she said, her mom has been sick. Octavia has been working extra hours to help cover the costs. I felt like someone had punched me in the chest. Octavia's mother was sick, and I had not known. I had not known because during 4 months of coffees and dinners, I had never once asked Octavia about her personal struggles. I had asked her about dental hygiene programs. I had asked her about salary expectations. I had asked her 100 questions about her career and 0 questions about her life. I sat in my car in the parking lot. Octavia did not need another text from me. She did not need a letter. She needed someone to see her, the real her. I decided right there that I was going to do something for Octavia that had absolutely nothing to do with dental hygiene, something that was just about her and what she was going through right now. I spent that whole evening in my kitchen. I made a big pot of soup from a recipe my own mother used to make when someone in our family was going through a hard time. I let it cool and I put it in a container. I went out and bought a soft blanket. Then I sat down and I wrote a note, not to Octavia, to Octavia's mother. The note said that her daughter was one of the kindest people I had ever known. That was it. I did not explain who I was. I did not make it about me. I just wanted her mom to know that her daughter mattered to someone. I drove to the dental office the next morning before it opened. I left it at the front desk with a small note for Octavia. The note said, I heard about your mom. I am thinking about you both. No response needed. I drove away and I told myself that was it. 2 weeks went by. I heard nothing. I told myself it was over and I meant it this time. I finished my dental hygiene program applications on my own. I asked the hygienist I had met at the information session to write my recommendation letter and she said yes. Then one evening I was sitting on my couch and my phone buzzed. It was Octavia. The message said, can we get coffee? No question mark, no emoji, just 4 words. My hands were shaking when I typed back yes. We met at the same coffee shop where we had our first meeting. I did not bring a notebook. Every single time I had met Octavia at this coffee shop, I had brought a notebook. This time I brought nothing. Octavia was already there. She was dressed casually. For the first time since I had known her, we were on the same page about what this was. Octavia spoke first. She looked at me across the table and she said, I was angry at you for a long time. Not because you were straight. I knew that was possible. I was angry because I felt like you only wanted me for what I could teach you. And then you sent that package to my mom, and it was the first time in 4 months I felt like you actually saw me. I did not try to defend myself. I said, you are right. I was selfish. I was so focused on my career change that I treated you like a textbook instead of a person. And I am sorry for that. That is worse than the misunderstanding. Octavia was quiet for a moment. Then she looked back up at me and she said, that is the first real thing you have ever said to me. We sat in that coffee shop for 3 hours. For the first time, I asked Octavia questions that had nothing to do with dental hygiene. I asked about her mother. I asked about her childhood. I asked her what she wanted from her life. And Octavia asked me the same kinds of questions. We were building something from scratch. Near the end of the 3 hours, Octavia leaned back in her chair and got this look on her face like she was remembering something funny. She said, you know, you showed up to our first coffee with a notebook. I should have known right then. We both started laughing. We laughed until we were crying, both of us, sitting in that same coffee shop where the whole mess had started, finally seeing each other for the first time. I got into a dental hygiene program 4 months later. Octavia did not write the recommendation letter. I earned it on my own, and that felt right. 2 years have passed since that night at the coffee shop. Octavia and I are still friends, real friends, the kind where we know about each other's lives, not just each other's careers. Octavia is dating someone wonderful, a woman who sees her the way she deserves to be seen. I married Colt. Octavia was at the wedding. I still have the letter Octavia wrote me. I keep it in my desk drawer at the dental office where I now work, not as a funny reminder of a misunderstanding, as a reminder to pay attention to the people in front of me, because the most important thing Octavia ever taught me had nothing to do with teeth.